ThinkOutCloud, your favorite cloud-based talk show about all things cloud computing. So in today's show, we'll be talking about infrastructure as a service, or IaaS, and the many benefits and advantages of using this for your business IT needs. I'm Nino Valmonte, and I'd like to introduce our very special guest today. He's the CEO and co-founder of CloudSigma, which is one of the world's leading IaaS companies. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Robert Jenkins. Hi, Robert.
Thanks, Nino. Thanks for having me here in Manila at your offices. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, and also I'd like to introduce my spectacular co-host, Ace Yutuc.
Good afternoon, everyone. I really think that the cloud is the future of IT, and to our guest, Mr. Jenkins, we're learning a lot more about cloud and the future of this technology. And by the way, if I may just remind all those watching, you can actually post your questions with a chat page located to the right of your screen. And later, at the end of the segment, Robert here will answer the questions that you guys are going to post.
All right, thank you. Okay, so Robert, thank you for gracing us with your presence once again, taking some time off your busy schedule to visit us today, and I guess share your insights with us. And I guess to start off, could you tell the viewers a bit about CloudSigma and its beginnings as an organization, and explain basically what compelled you to develop the product in the first place?
Sure. So I'm a co-founder at CloudSigma, as well as the CEO, and I co-founded it with a friend of mine called Patrick, who was working actually in investment banking at the time on the IT side. And really, what happened was in 2007, 2008, we started using cloud, public clouds that were available there at the time. And what we quickly realized was that although you were gaining a lot on one hand, like elasticity and cost transparency and things like this, actually they'd implemented the technologies in quite a inflexible way and quite a proprietary way. So what we wanted to do was bring to market a public cloud that basically put the user in the driving seat. So you had a customer-centric environment that would allow the user essentially to run their systems in a public cloud in the same way that they could run systems on a private infrastructure. So the same level of flexibility, the ability to define their environment, run any operating system, etc. And that's really what led us to create CloudSigma.
And what does CloudSigma differ from other big players such as AWS or Azure?
Sure. So it's really an extension of that. So we, having seen those big players and how they approach the market, we wanted to build something that was different. So the way we built it, and to do that, we actually had to build our own stack, basically. So it's our own product. We're not using OpenStack behind the scenes or some other product, and we're just sort of reselling it. We actually built our own product from scratch. So that's why you see a lot of differentiation in the way our product is built and exposed for customers. So in terms of that, it's things like the ability to define your environment, run any operating system, unmodified, any x86, x64 operating system. So we have customers running everything from FreeBSD, NetBSD, all variants of Windows, including pretty old ones, all variants of Linux, custom kernels, you name it. So it's a real computing environment.
And the list is growing, right?
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. And then we combine that with having a very high level of support. So when you're buying from someone like Amazon or Google, they're very big companies, and so their approach is very much a formulaic approach in the cloud, at least, where you basically buy from a fixed menu of servers, and basically that's it, and then they have sort of forums and FAQs. With our cloud, we have free live chat, we have 24/7 free live chat, we have the ticketing system, we have a very high level of support.
And we even saw your YouTube channel where...
Plus, we have YouTube channels, and they wrote me into doing videos for the help videos. So, and I use the product myself.
And you look good there.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
I saw you the small inset.
Yes, exactly. We got the overlay. Yeah, so exactly. And I use the product myself actually a lot. So I'm very much hands-on as a CEO. So, and we even in the company, we have what we call day-in support. So actually, all the people from all different areas of the company, they have to spend a day in support actually dealing with the queries from customers directly.
That's very interesting.
So that they actually learn, they see customers' pain points, and then it gives them a totally different appreciation when you've sat in support, including myself, when you've sat in support and answering the customers' queries and using the product. It's a really good experience actually. So this is kind of how we create a very customer-centric
Yeah.
organization.
That's a very good, I guess, practice.
Yes. And people look at the
Yeah.
support people in a different light when they've been there for a day in support,
Exactly.
and they realize that it's actually a really tough job, and it's can be quite stressful at times. So yeah.
Yeah, and it gives everyone in the organization like a deeper appreciation for the product and the company and what they're doing.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So, I mean, talking about Ace's question was alluding to, I guess, those bigger players
Yes.
in the world. None of those large players actually have a presence in the Philippines. And CloudSigma, this is your first venture into Asia Pacific. And what drove you to choose the Philippines among all the Asian nations?
Sure. So there were a number of reasons. So the background is that we have a plan, an expansion plan where we're expanding globally. We already have clouds in the US, 4 different clouds. We have a cloud in Europe, expanding to 3 in Q2 this year, and now we're expanding into Asia. And we do that through partners. We'll talk a little bit more about our partnership model later, but that was the idea. So we wanted to find a good partner in this region. And the reason we looked at the Philippines in particular was because for us, it's a very fast-growing economy. It's actually also strategically located for the region, and we also felt it's something that's very much underserved by clouds at the moment. So although there are a choice of clouds in, say, Hong Kong, there's a choice of clouds in Singapore, and maybe Europeans such as myself might consider those places to be kind of roughly close. They're not really that close, actually. Okay. in terms of that, and actually the latency to someone like Singapore from here, it's not enormous, but it's significant. And if you're running a web service, that makes a huge difference, actually. So it's all very well outsourcing something to the cloud, which might make a lot of sense. But then if customers see a degradation in service because of the latency, and I actually was sat down with a company this morning that did exactly this, and then had users complaining that the performance went down, which it shouldn't be like this. It should be the opposite. And it was because they'd outsourced it to a cloud in Singapore, and so bringing it closer, increases the performance and the kind of different. It increases what you can move, because you can't move certain things too far away because of the latency problem. So, and of course, there's a legal issue as well, being able to keep it under local jurisdiction.
Speaking of latency, how does IPC fit in the picture? What qualities are you looking for in terms of?
So I mean, we don't. You might say, well, I'm working for a cloud company. I'm going to tell you should throw everything in the cloud, and actually, that's not really what I'm saying. So, in reality, there are going to be a spectrum of different use cases, some of which people want to put in the cloud, some of which people want to keep on physical equipment for now, etc. So the idea of the partnership with IPC was twofold. On the one hand, we can extend the support that we can give customers into the Philippines on the ground, have people here on the ground, such as everyone that's here today, to be able to liaise with customers and help them. Which makes a huge difference, and we're able to through IPC we offer telephone support to all the customers here in Manila, which is a big differentiator as well. So you have all of that, and then you have the actual technical side of it, the fact that IPC has its own fiber networks, has its own data centers. So what we have is an end-to-end integrated sort of services portfolio in infrastructure.
Plus we're ISO certified as well.
Yes, and both our organizations are. So we have end-to-end ISO certification as well, 27001. But the ability to create, combine the networking with data center, colo, and cloud, and be able to offer any combination of those. So hybrid cloud, pure cloud, and then also have that network integration allows for other kinds of services, and to do that in a more coherent way with a single relationship here in Manila, compared to alternatives where you're going to be fragmenting your infrastructure across multiple companies, multiple locations.
So the subscribers can actually talk to a Filipino-speaking support personnel from IPC.
Exactly. And as things grow, you never know. Maybe I'll end up speaking some Filipino too. I'm not ready yet. No.
Give us a sample of that.
Not yet.
Not yet, not just yet. Maybe in our future episodes we'll have Robert.
We can do it in
probably. All right. So I guess with regard to customers, I mean, in the Philippines, cloud computing or IaaS or SaaS has been a buzzword for quite a number of years. But that's all it really is. I mean, the adoption for cloud services isn't as high as we want it to be as of today.
Hmm.
And you know, I guess what we'd like to understand is globally. I mean, CloudSigma is a global company. Could you give us a profile of what kind of customers
Yes.
CloudSigma has? And I guess um, just describe what industries or what kind of companies would be will benefit a lot from
Yeah.
infrastructure as a service.
So there's actually a very wide range of customers and use cases in our cloud. But I can give you some of the more challenging ones that we accommodate. So on the one hand, you have people like the European Space Agency, who they have a lot of satellites, who have Earth observation, and in general, it generates a lot of data, like multiple terabytes of raw data a day, and they need to process all that data, make sense of it, and they use CloudSigma both on the storage and the compute side to process a lot of their satellite data. So that's an interesting one. And of course, they care about storage performance, networking performance to move all that data and storage. And it's also got to be competitive. So you have kind of challenging use cases like that. Another example would be Deutsche Börse, which is a financial exchange in Frankfurt. It's actually the biggest exchange for futures in the world. And they use our cloud as a sandbox for banks and hedge funds to spin up an exact copy of the exchange in a sandbox environment for development and testing. And they can do that because of the neutral platform. So they can literally run exactly the same environment in CloudSigma that they're running in production on the futures exchange in Frankfurt, and they bring that up on demand because of the speed of deployment. So we have these kind of very challenging use cases, and then we have people who run, for example, software as a service, and they like our platform again because of the control and the performance, because they're able to, I always say, like, it doesn't matter if it's good enough for European Space Agency, it's probably good enough for you in terms of the performance requirements.
And these are mission critical applications.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I mean, these are production services. Of course, you can use this for testing and development, and we have people who use this for DNS servers and web servers and things like that, and they still benefit from having great performance. Don't get me wrong, but but the requirement wouldn't be as high as a minimum in terms of making it work. But so the great thing is you have this very high performance ceiling, so you can deploy all sorts of applications from the kind of less demanding to the kind of really HPC type high performance computing workloads, and you can deploy that in CloudSigma, and they'll actually perform and work well. So that's offering a lot of value for money as well, because people, it's worth saying, people when you're looking at the cloud, people will compare price and say, oh, but it's $10 over there and it's $12 here. Okay, fine. But what you care about is what can it get done, because computing is a means to an end. I mean, you don't stick a computer on a wall so your friends can come and look at it. It's doing it's a utility. It's just doing something for you, and it's doing work. So the question is, how much work can it do? And if the $12 server can do twice as much as the $10 server, I would argue the $12 server is probably a better deal, because actually you will get twice as much done, so you need less servers. So it ends up being less money to get the same workload done. So that's kind of what we always look at CloudSigma is price performance, and that's offering value to the customer. If you can offer a competitive price performance point with the right features, then that's something that's compelling.
So you say that savings is just a function of the value that the product will bring. It's not like
there's difference between the best value and the cheapest.
Yes,
Exactly. Sometimes if everyone's flown a budget airline, they might feel that the cheapest is not always the best value, right?
Exactly.
So
you get what you pay for, in other words.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And
in an airline analogy, you only pay for the seat, the actual real estate that you're going to be sitting on, not on a per seat, on whether it's business class or first class.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm not saying we charge first class prices, by the way. That wasn't my point. But yeah, the idea is offering value. So if you can combine the right price with the right performance, and then more importantly, let the customer be able to purchase what they need, not be told, oh, here's a list of 10 servers or 20 servers, choose which one you need, and then that's what you have to take. It's the opposite. In CloudSigma, it's like, what server size would you like? Which kind of freaks people out a little bit sometimes, because they're like, oh, I don't know. Well, okay, try a size, and you can resize it, because in CloudSigma, everything's unbundled. So if you set up your server, and then you find, oh, you know what, I've got too much RAM, you just reduce the RAM. Or you need more CPU. Okay, put another 2 cores of CPU on there. Very easy.
Limited to they are absolutely not limited to the packages and
there are no packages. That's the idea. Exactly. Yeah, the idea is it's a pure utility. So you pay for CPU, RAM, storage, and data transfer, and that's it.
You just pay exactly what you pay, or what you just use exactly what you pay for, and
Yes.
pay for what you use. Right?
Yeah, and we have 5-minute billing, so it's actually looking at what you're using every 5 minutes. So it's tracking very closely what you're actually using, and that's also so it's a matter of having high performance, allowing customers to deploy that efficiently, and then the third thing is measuring their usage efficiently. And when you layer those three things up, you actually get a very competitive offering for customers. So it's kind of the combination of all those three things, because I could offer you a good price, but then if I measure what you're using inefficiently in a way that favors me, you end up having to pay for stuff you're not using. So that becomes expensive in reality for you. So the idea is having that efficiency all the way down the line through billing, the provisioning, and the actual measurement of usage.
The real meaning of
Yeah.
flexibility.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, because you know what, you have bill shock. I mean, that's what people do. They're expecting a bill for this, and then I mean, everyone's had bills like this, and then you get another bill, you get the bill that you actually have to pay, and then you start finding lots of API calls and this and that and the other, and you're like, basically it ends up making it very hard for you to budget.
Plus you have on-demand instances as well, so the resources will grow and shrink depending on the actual load, right?
Yeah, so the way the billing works is you buy a certain level of resource consumption, which could be 0 if you didn't want to commit to anything, and then we're just measuring what you're using. So if you'd bought, say, because it's per resource, so if you'd bought, say, 100 gigabytes of RAM and you were running some servers, and then your load went up and you needed to, spin up 3-4 more servers, let's say your load goes up to then 120 for RAM, our system will say, oh, you've subscribed for 100, now using 120, we'll charge you 20 gigabytes for 5 minutes. And it'll just keep charging you every 5 minutes in these micro transactions until those servers get switched off again, or you choose to buy a higher subscription, and that's it. So it's extremely efficient for customers because they're able to budget what they want. And it's very predictable because the price in CloudSigma is the price of the resource times by the amount of that resource, and that's it. There are no other charges.
Simple,
Yes, it's designed to be extremely transparent.
Okay, so I mean, it's by the sound of it, when you mentioned earlier about the ESA and Deutsche Börse, those are large corporations,
Yes.
large companies, but definitely even down to the small businesses, entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean most of
yeah.
our customers are actually that size. So
Oh,
we have a long tail of users, which are small SMEs and developers and things like that. But if I gave them as an example, if I gave this guy's fishing shop in Dollar, it wouldn't really translate because no one's heard of them. So so that's why I gave the example of big customers. But in reality, of course, we have thousands of small customers, and the platform is completely, although we have the support, it's completely self-service. So anybody can go on, they can open an account online, they can make a payment online, and everything's covered by the API, so you can fully integrate it. So that developers like it as well because they're able to, create scripts and automate everything on the API. I mean, our entire web app was built on our API. So basically, everything you see in the web app, you can achieve over the API directly on a machine-to-machine basis as well.
How about for the hybrid type of a solution, especially in the Philippines? Since what Nino mentioned about the uptake of cloud technology, how can they benefit on a hybrid cloud of a setup?
Sure. Well, we have a hybrid solution, and we have many customers. In fact, Deutsche Börse that I mentioned earlier uses us in a hybrid way in conjunction with their own infrastructure. So because most customers, especially larger customers, are going to have physical and cloud for the foreseeable future, we have a solution which basically allows customers to cross-connect into the cloud, either from within the data center or on a point-to-point line, and then we map that directly into their private network in the cloud. So what it means is you have an end-to-end private IP solution, and that runs at line speed. So if that's a 10 gig connection, it'll run at 10 gigs because it's all done at the switching layer. So it's extremely efficient. So you're able to have almost no introduced latency on that line and to run it at line speed, whatever that line speed is that you want. So that gives you, and it's all exposed on the same subnet. So essentially the infrastructure that you have, which is physical, and then after you've put that solution in place, which is literally just ordering the line, then basically at the other end, you've got the cloud infrastructure, and it's all on the same network. So it basically puts one environment, and because we can run, or you customers can run exactly the same operating systems and applications in the cloud that they can on physical, they can easily move workloads between physical and virtual. So the IT department isn't having to maintain two environments, which is what often happens. So you end up having to do things on the physical, and then you do it in the cloud and have to revalidate everything for the cloud because you have to change it. So the idea of this is you don't have to do that. So you drop the overhead of having two environments.
And they don't have to transition very abruptly from on-premise to cloud. So
No.
the hybrid will actually...
You can move, and we even have solutions which allow you to migrate servers live. So you can actually put an agent on your virtual machine or physical server, and you can actually, and then it will appear in the CloudSigma account, and it will sync all the data in the background to CloudSigma, and then you can just basically say stop once it's finished, and your system is then in CloudSigma. Yeah. So I mean, that's just a transparent, automatic way of moving the servers into the cloud.
Oh, okay. I mean,
it's like magic. I've done it myself. It really works. No, it works. It actually really works. And just a simple agent.
As well for IPC, because being a data center operator, maybe it could be ideal for, let's say, a company or customer to have co-located physical machines in our data center. And
I mean, it's a natural progression because you guys already have a lot of customers in the data center and new customers all the time, and then those same customers are looking at cloud and they're trying to work out how can I do things in the cloud, and at the same time I don't want to put everything in the cloud. So this is the beauty of the partnership that we have. We have what you might describe as a sort of full infrastructure spectrum. So we can go from physical colo all the way to public cloud and anything in between.
Getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and with a single relationship here in Manila. So yeah.
I mean, talking about moving from physical to cloud. I mean, in the Philippines, a big hindrance to cloud adoption is obviously the misconception that the public cloud is not secure. I mean, could you share with our viewers how they can ensure that their data is safe and sound in the cloud?
Sure. So what I would say to that is you can make the public cloud very insecure, just like you can make your own private environment very insecure. And so what it comes down to is having the tools to set up the environment in an effective way so you're able to secure it. Just like you would secure your own private environment. I mean, anyone can just connect a server to the internet and have a default password, and it will get hacked. It'll work, and it'll get hacked, and that's a physical server. And a cloud server is no different. Yeah. So the answer is, what you need to do when you go into the cloud is that, firstly, it's not inherently less secure, but secondly, you have the ability to then. What you need is the ability to then secure it. So what we've done in CloudSigma is create a whole package of a whole kind of suite of tools that allow customers to secure their infrastructure. So that's everything from being able to have network policies on the cloud servers which operate underneath the cloud server at the hypervisor level. So you could, for example, lock down a cloud server to a specific IP range. Maybe it's a service you only need to be able to access from your office. Okay, so you can actually have it with a policy that only accepts or sends traffic to a certain IP range below the operating system level, so that the traffic will never even reach the server. This is one way of securing the networking. So we have networking tools, we have the access tools in terms of two-factor authentication, and many others. So the idea is that the customers have all of the normal tools that they would expect at their disposal so they can secure it. And what I would say is that there is no magic setting. There's no setting that you could point to that says that's secure. Because what's secure is something that's specific to every customer's requirement. So the idea is that what you need is multiple layers of security. So if one fails, the other one will catch it, and it needs to be specific to your need. So the idea is that we have the tools that allow the customer to set their own security. So they know what ports should be open on a server. They know what is a normal use case, where people should be accessing from, etc. So they can then set those policies and set the access requirements that fit their need, and at the same time have multiple layers of different policies which allow them to catch something.
Just also strike to stress that a lot of the cloud skeptics out there seem to forget that in terms of the cloud, it really takes two to tango, right? Which means that those who are managing those clouds need to be also make sure that they know what security levels they need. It's like the difference between a house and the central bank. So they would need to determine how much security level they really need. So
I mean, at our level, of course, as a cloud provider, we're doing this 24/7. So we're very focused on security and also the availability of the environment, and that's part of what you get by moving to the cloud. Is you're basically putting the equipment in the hands of specialists. And we mentioned before, we both have ISO 27001 certification, which is a pretty robust framework.
Right.
It's not an easy certification to achieve, and that's because we have all the procedures in place and the frameworks for the security and handling of data and access. And yes, I mean, that's basically one of the things you gain implicitly by moving to the cloud. And then, of course, you then also have your own security tools that you can use to secure that particular environment.
And if they want to know more, you have a long list of knowledge-based articles that they can read.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of knowledge-based, there's a product is never complete all the time. What's going to be next in terms of CloudSigma and the technology? What can our those viewing this webinar expect in the future in terms of
Well, lots. But more specifically, I mean, we have a lot of different features and plans coming up. One of the areas that's very interesting that we're seeing a lot of demand for from customers is a more integrated approach for disaster recovery as a service and business continuity, which of course also in this area of the world is very important because of just the sort of natural disasters and things like that. Yes, so there's a lot of things going on.
Pacific Ring of Fire.
I mean, we have a cloud in Switzerland, and it's lucky that Switzerland doesn't have really any natural disasters to speak of. But obviously here it's a lot more problematic. So having disaster recovery as a service is something that's really interesting. So I talked about that migration tool. Actually using the same technology, we have a disaster recovery as a service product that will be exposed on the platform in Q2. And what it does is it allows you to put these agents in any Linux or Windows server, physical or virtual, and even desktops. And that agent then basically harvests the information from the VM, sends it to the cloud, and you go to the cloud orchestration portal, and you can see all those VMs and servers, and you can just say, okay, I want to back up those ones, go. And it will just then, without shutting any of those servers down, in the background, so you can do it on a production system, it will then sync all of the data. And you can tell it how often you want it to sync. So you can say, sync all the data, and then once you've done the initial sync every 15 minutes. So that you have a recovery point every 15 minutes on all your infrastructure, if you wanted it that granular. And then you can say, keep like the last 100 snaps. And then you basically, that works in the background.
And the snaps are differential and
you basically have all you have all the delta, so you can go back to the one from 2 hours ago or 2 days ago. So you have all of that, and then because we're a compute cloud as well, you combine that with the compute, so then you can actually disaster recover to the cloud, and you can simply hit a button, like the big red button sort of thing, and it will spin up all the VMs in the cloud that you've been syncing immediately. So then you can be up within a few minutes. So if you make the decision your primary's gone down because there's an electricity outage or whatever it is, or your office, then basically you can just hit the red button or choose which ones you want to spin up and spin them up in the cloud, because we have the compute there ready. So the idea is that you can then have a DR strategy, which is extremely robust because you're getting like syncing every 15 minutes or every hour or whatever, and you can extend that to many parts of your organization, not just servers, but as I said, people's desktops, laptops, which of course have a tendency to get lost.
Each one would have their own recovery time objective and
and you can set the policy, and then you can, and also the system has automatic testing, because it's all very well having a backup or thinking you have a backup, but then actually there's some corruption or some problem, and you only find that out when you actually really need it. So
the biggest irony.
Yes. So it actually has built in a whole validation framework, so you can actually say test boot this VM, so it'll do it in read-only mode. You can say test boot this once a week, every Thursday evening or something, and it'll boot it up, and it'll even execute some commands, and then it will send you the screenshots by email. So this is great, because basically as an administrator of that system, you just once a week you can see all the VMs are booted up successfully, no file system corruption, all good. So basically it's automated testing. So you know that backup is a good backup that you can actually recover to if you have to. So this is all integrated onto our web app. So and the charge is just a simple per gigabyte charge. So you pay, you just pay for the storage, like a normal storage, the normal charge for the storage. No compute, and then all you pay for is a license, an extra license on the DR. So it's a few more cents per month for the data, for the DR license on the thing per gigabyte. And the incoming data is free. So all that data syncing is free. That's not going to cost you anything. And you're just going to have to pay for the storage and then the DR license, which is again based on simply the amount of aggregate storage that you have. So then if you want to work out, well, what's my cost going to be? It's like, okay, well, how much are you going to store? This much. Okay, well, this much times by simple number equals, and that's it. That's the budget. So it's a very, very simple approach, and it's very powerful.
Charges.
No, because what we found is that there's some very good DR products out there. They're also very complicated. Like if you look at their system, it's like you have to be a 747 pilot. You know, like all of the things. You need like a month's training course on knowing what the hell's going on. So the idea of this is it's a simple approach that you can actually use in reality. So you can just put it in there and you can extend it to, and because it's very cost effective, you can afford to put it on a lot of infrastructure that you might not normally. Like you might say, well, it's not critical, but nice to have. Okay, well, throw it on there because the cost incrementally to your organization is going to be really small compared to potential data loss. So we see it as a way of really extending DR into new areas of organizations and offering them a much simpler approach that's also very powerful.
And it's easier to implement. Definitely easier.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can implement it in 10 minutes. You just put the agent on there, and it will just appear in your CloudSigma account. The VM just appears automatically. And that's it. It's already started syncing the data, and you just say, what you want to do with it. Do you want to migrate it, or do you just want to set up a DR policy against it? And you just set up the policy, and that's it. Sort of fire and forget.
Very, very, very exciting. And especially now that it's summer and typhoon season is about a few months from now.
So it's a good time to start thinking about it.
It's imperative.
Very, very imperative that they try to start looking and planning on how they can deploy their DR CloudSigma.
Yeah, I mean, it's good timing. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Well, at this point, I guess I would like to hear from our viewers if there are any questions. Did anyone ask any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a question.
Okay, here. How can I determine when I'm ready to move to the cloud? Okay, I guess it's a fairly simple question.
You know what I'm going to say, right?
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no, I mean, the answer is, I would say, look at specific use cases like we've been talking about. So, if I'm looking for disaster recovery, DR, that's a good time to look at cloud because cloud can actually offer you a very cost-effective way of doing that. Another example is I'm talking about kind of easier use cases, introductions. So, for example, what about if you have testing and development or project-based work? So if you have a project that needs physical equipment or computing capacity, let's say, that's a good time to look at the cloud because maybe you could put that capacity in the cloud and then you can buy it just for the project period, like 3 months or 6 months. So testing and development environments or project-based infrastructure is also a good one. So it's a use case thing. I would say work backwards. So you just look at what are the use cases that you have, and then determine if the cloud for that particular use case can be the first step.
And then that's the good thing about cloud computing. It's you start small and then just pay for what you use, and there's no pressure. You don't have to buy huge hardware, and it's easy to implement. So I mean, anytime's a good time to start. Just identify what you need to do.
Can I pick up that question that's just come in about like how to present the case for cloud in the organization?
Sure. Yes.
So
so
the question. Do you want to read the question and I'll?
Okay, so when I propose a cloud-focused IT future to my management, knowing that the top bosses may not be technically inclined, which is a lot of companies in the Philippines, how do I present my case?
So
good question.
Yes, exactly. It's like, okay, I'm sold, but maybe my boss.
Who's gonna sign the purchase
order? Yeah. This is a common problem. So, so the answer is, I would two sides to it. So, actually, a lot of the benefits of cloud are not coming from just saving costs, which kind of people focus on, like, oh, well, you're saving costs. Right. Actually, a lot of the benefits come from the things that it can allow the organization to do that they can't do before. So actually, using the cloud can make your company a lot more innovative, a lot more agile. So you can do things like speed up the time to market. You can do better testing. You can do, for example, scale testing on the product. You can increase the service level. So the idea is, first, you obviously have to make a case on the cost side. That's that's implicit. They're going to want to know the costs. Yes. But don't just focus on the costs, because you can save money, and that's fine. But actually, where is the real benefit beyond just the cost savings, which are limited by definition? You have a limited cost base.
Yes.
So if you reduce it by 20% or by 30% or whatever it is, that's how much you can gain. If you can make your company more innovative, you tell me, what is the value of that? Is that 20? It's got nothing to do with your infrastructure budget. It can actually be vastly more valuable. Yes. So I think that's part of it. So part of the use case for cloud is it's gonna, and also the savings from things like procurement, because the cost of going through all the procurement, various other things like that. So the idea is you can say,
maintaining the
so you position this in terms of, this can allow our company to focus on what we're good at, and replacing broken hard drives is not really our best value. We can be doing this other stuff, and that's got the real value. So although there's a cost saving, there's actually a big value by letting these people concentrate on things that are more valuable to the company rather than sort of monkey work sort of thing, and let us do the monkey work. And then it's not really monkey work, but you know what I mean.
That's our word for today.
Okay. And I've just insulted everyone that works in a data center. It's not true. I've done that work. It's not easy, but the point is that companies are not focused on that. Why bother? So the idea is that let your company focus on where you can have the most value, which is a force multiplier, and then actually this can make you more innovative and more agile. And if you demonstrate that and you're saving money, then it's a lot more compelling, because it's like, oh, you're saving X per month. Okay, fine, but I'm not like, I'm not on fire for this, right? But if you can demonstrate it as, this is actually going to make us much better at our jobs and service the company better, or make the company's product better if it's through the company's product, then that's a lot more compelling when combined with a strong case on the cost side as well.
More meaningful.
Yeah, and it shows you've thought through it as well, and the strategic implications, because if you're talking about top managers, they're always looking more, or should be looking more on a strategic level as well, not just about like what's right in front of them, but where does this position the company going forward.
I think there's a related question.
Okay.
The second one on the second one.
Just up further up.
Further up. There.
Okay.
This one. Yeah, that's a good question. So, as a technical person, what new skills do I need to learn to be knowledgeable in working in a cloud environment?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm an economist by training, just to start with, right? So, if I can do it, you can do it. Doesn't matter where you're from.
That's a good message.
It's absolutely true. And I learned it all. And I'm not like a super technical person by any means.
Now you are, actually.
Well, I don't think I'm a super technical person, but I know about the cloud plus minus. So
Plus minus.
Yeah, so in terms of that, I would say that actually the skill sets are the same mostly than what you're already used to on physical. So actually you can transport, and especially in our cloud, you can transport most of the things that you're already doing now and put them in the cloud without too much bother. But and then really where to concentrate on learning is how is around things like automation, and how can I make the system more responsive and things like this. So these are the areas of kind of learning, because these are things you can't really do on physical. You can't really scale up the environment physically in any sort of agile way, because you just have to be throwing servers into racks and then removing them. It doesn't work. So people don't concentrate on that when they're managing a physical environment. So in the cloud, you have that additional agility. It's not a requirement. You don't have to do it like that. You could just have a static environment. But if you embrace those other things, you're going to get better value. So those are the kind of skills that you can do, and also look at things like managing multiple locations, because in the cloud, because you don't have to physically maintain the equipment, you don't have to be like, oh, is this a sensible driving distance from our base? Because it doesn't matter, right? So you can be looking at where are our customers, how do we service our customers? So you have customers here in the Philippines, you have a base here in the Philippines, for example. Fine, then you can use service here. But you may have some customers over in the US or in Europe. Well, why not spin up a local node for them there and improve the latency and the service that they get? And vice versa, you'll have American companies spinning up clouds here in Manila because they have local customers here in the Philippines. So that the idea is that you can look differently in how you distribute your infrastructure, and you can be much more end user focused, whether that end user is internally in your organization or externally in terms of customers.
Which makes it very important that the provider is actually globally present provider, right? So with multiple cloud instances.
And that's what's great about our partnership, is that you have the strength here in the Philippines with the networking and the physical data centers, but at the same time, customers using you can then extend out to other locations that we have all over the world using the same platform that they're familiar with.
Perfect.
and vice versa. Customers
So,
can come here to
so if there are
Manila.
global customers who are looking at an instance in the Philippines, only CloudSigma can deliver it here
Here
in the Philippines.
exactly.
Yeah, with the local and also under local jurisdiction, which we
Correct.
didn't talk about, but that's
Oh, yeah.
important.
Mhm.
So actually, it's under local law. So if anyone spins up a cloud here in Manila, it's
Correct.
subject only to law of the Philippines, and all the data is in the Philippines, and that's how it's dealt with. So if you're servicing customers in the Philippines, you're able to tell them your data's here on the ground. It's under Filipino law. There's no other sort of jurisdictional issues. So it's very clear for the customers. So it allows you to use the cloud without giving up a lot of control over the data.
Just another question. What you said that it's easy to like transition from physical to cloud servers. Does it follow that any application that works on a physical server will work on a cloud server?
Yes.
Well, for a lot of clouds, the answer is no. You have to do a decent amount of reconfiguration. So they often have custom networking, and they only accept certain operating systems and things like that. So that can be quite restrictive. So the answer is, in general, for the cloud, I would say no, you can't. Now, in the case of CloudSigma, we've gone to significant efforts to make sure that you can. That's the whole idea. So that's a differentiator for us, is that you can like bring your own operating system or bring your own application. So literally any x86, x64 based system, like an Intel AMD based system, they can be moved to our cloud. And because we have a very high performance ceiling, even very demanding applications like, for example, SAP workloads and big database type workloads, they can be moved to our cloud, and we have very fast storage and networking to support them. So we're able to support those kind of critical enterprise workloads as well.
Support Dockers, right? So
we have people, of course, using containers on top of our cloud servers. And they're able to spin up, Docker swarms and this and the other. And what they do is they do scaling of the VMs, and then they do scaling of the containers on top. So it gives them sort of the combination of the privacy and power of VM environment with the sort of flexibility of containers on top of that. And actually, if you go to our blog, there's some expose of that, sort of exposition of that, talking about how customers are using containers in our cloud, actually.
We have another question here. Is the best way in starting a business by giving free trials? Okay, so I think the person is asking whether we're able to provide free trials. Yes.
Well,
the answer is yes.
I mean, I can answer that in two ways. So the first is we do provide a free trial. And the reason we provide a free trial is we want people to be able to use the product and actually like the product. And that's part of our approach, is we don't have lock-in. That's why, you can download all your data from CloudSigma at any time. Literally, there's a download button, and you can download the drives that you have for your cloud servers. So our approach is not to lock people in by sort of locking them in, basically. The idea is that people stay with us because they like us and they don't find an alternative that's better, and they're happy to stay with us. So it's a sort of positive lock-in. They have features on our cloud that they don't get somewhere else, and that's why they don't want to leave. Not that they can't actually leave if they want to. So for free trials, it's part of that. The idea is when someone makes a purchasing decision, they make it from an informed point of view. So they can say, I've tried the product. It's not like a secret. I know what the price is from the very beginning, so I'm not wasting my time. So it's not like, call to find out the price kind of thing. And if if you have to call for the price, that they're going to try and work out how much money you've got, and then they tell you the price, right? That's how it works, yeah? So it doesn't work like that. Yeah. So the idea is free trial is just an extension of that. It's like, here's the product. Here you can use it, try it, test the performance, and if you have a larger requirement that doesn't fit within the free trial, because anybody in the internet can use the free trial, so we obviously have to be reasonable about the amount of capacity. But if you have a requirement that goes beyond that, all you have to do is contact our support or telephone you guys, and we'll upgrade the account, give you the extra capacity to be able to do the testing. So it's really like that. So I would say, at least from my perspective, free trials are a good way to start business, because if you have a good product, then it's a good way of getting it in front of a lot of people, and being transparent.
Right. That's when they subscribe, they can pay in local currency as well, right?
Yes, we have all the localization. Yeah, so you can pay in pesos, or US dollars, or euros, or Swiss francs, or pounds. So we have a British pound. So we have a lot of different currencies. So the customer can choose when they open their account what currency they want, and that's because we have customers from all over the world. So that's why we have all the major international currencies, as well as whatever local currency might be there if it's not a big international currency. Yeah. So we have that as well. So yeah, free trials I think is it's a modern way of, it's sort of not an enterprise sales type approach. It's a kind of much more sort of agile, modern way of looking at sales, in that, you know, give the product to the person and you don't need to sell them.
It's digital product sampling is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And Filipinos are actually, you know.
Yeah, I mean, at least in the Philippines, you go to a mall and there's like a booth there giving out free
small fry,
you know, taste tests of something,
a small jerky,
things like that. And I guess it extends to products like this. All right, so are there any other questions? I mean, I think some of these have been answered already.
Yes.
The AWS one? Or
Yeah. No, I think this one.
we covered that one.
I have cloud server subscriptions from other providers. Does it make sense to have another backup in another provider, such as CloudSigma?
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes to the DR stuff that we were talking about before. So the solution that we were talking about actually works between clouds as well, between CloudSigma clouds, but between cloud providers. So, for example, we were actually testing for a potential customer here in Manila. Can we sync and migrate, but also sync in a backup DR strategy between SoftLayer and CloudSigma? And the answer is yes. And we tested it for various versions of Windows that they were using, also for Linux, different distributions. And the answer was we could sync all of those systems transparently in the way I was describing to CloudSigma in Manila. So the answer is yeah. If you're using a cloud in Singapore, in Hong Kong, or physical equipment somewhere, and you want to back it up to the cloud, and back it up like at a block level, like the whole system, so like kind of forklift it and put it into the cloud, either because you want to migrate or because you want to just have a backup that you can use for disaster recovery or whatever, the answer is yeah, you can do that between clouds. And actually, it's a use case that's pretty common.
Okay. At this point, if there are no more questions, is that it? There's no more questions there? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Robert, for spending this afternoon with us. And
salamat.
Yeah, salamat for being here and sharing your valuable insights. Would you have any parting words for our viewers before we end?
Sure. I would say, you know, what we touched on before was, and also thank you to you guys and to everyone at home for coming and spending the time together today. I really do appreciate it as well. Yes, I would say that, you know, start with something tangible, so we can, and also as technologists, get excited about all these grand schemes and things that we can do in the long term. But actually, one of the great things is just to start with something very defined, small and achievable within a short space of time, and start using the cloud. And by doing that, you'll start learning. And so that's the most important thing, because once you start learning and interacting with the cloud, whether it's, you know, then you're going to start having ideas, and then they're going to be informed, and so you're going to be like, oh, now I understand, I could use this for this, and it just is a natural process. So it's like anything, when you start using a new idea or a new system, it takes you time to really fully appreciate how you can use it and how best you can use it. So the answer is baby steps. So find something that's achievable, and then you can also deliver value to your organization, especially if you're in a larger organization. So you can do something small, you know, learn your lessons at a small scale, how best to use the cloud, where I can use it, and then you'll have a much better idea how to spread that out and do larger schemes. And you can kind of start with sort of small wins and then build on those incrementally.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, it's very important, especially for startups. And nowadays, I mean, there's like startups are like a dime a dozen. There's so many startups popping up today, and it's very important for them to be able to get up and running fast, and even fail fast, and start up again fast, and at minimal expense.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I think that's very important for the startups of today. So yeah, thanks Robert for being here again, and thanks everyone for watching. For more information about CloudSigma, visit cloud.com.ph, and to watch the replay of this live episode, check out other episodes in the past. Just go to ThinkOutCloud.ph or visit IPC's YouTube page. So with that, thanks everybody. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
See you soon.